Hey guys, what is going on? So today I wanted to talk about body mass distribution, or more specifically, muscle mass distribution across your body, and how that affects how you look at a certain body fat percentage at a certain weight, and how that affects your calorie expenditure throughout the day. And these are things that I really don't think are being talked about as much as they should be. And people kind of overlook this. I think they intuitively know, but I don't think they understand the degree in which this is true. And the main thing I want to talk about here is how training your legs, and not just the calorie expenditure that you get from a brutal leg day, but the amount of mass that you carry on your legs and how increasing that mass over time dramatically changes how you look at a certain weight, at a certain body fat percentage, and the amount of food that you can eat. So this has been very evident to me recently, because the last year and a half, I wasn't even training my legs, and I only started to train them over the last few months. And I've noticed a pretty large increase in terms of my leg size, which is to be expected. Obviously, there is muscle memory involved in that, but there is a huge amount of muscle mass in your legs, and not just your quads, not just your hamstrings, your glutes, your calves. Everything really kind of contributes very much in the lower body in terms of your overall body mass. And I think people kind of overlook this because they group it as like one group of muscles. And people do the same thing with back, which is kind of similar. Obviously, the back is a lot of different muscle groups, and the overall weight that the back contributes is very, significant. It's just not to the same degree as the legs. And so if you were to rank them, the legs would be way up here. The back would be, not too far behind. And then muscle groups like the chest or the arms would be much lower down. And so as somebody who has been coming back into training legs, the amount of weight that is put on my body while not gaining too much fat mass has been very substantial. And it's only been a few months of training legs. And I've been hammering back more so than I was. I actually was hitting back a little bit throughout this period where I was kind of skipping a whole bunch of other stuff. But back contributes a good amount as well. But I really think legs are the main reason why I'm noticing that the amount of food that I can eat is just going up and up and up. And the amount of food that I've been accustomed to eating in the past when I had a lot more leg mass, I literally could barely even be in a surplus. I'd have to just eat so much food. And I noticed when I started losing leg mass, it became very hard for me to be in a deficit. A surplus was like the default, and I wasn't even eating nearly as much as I was in the past. So I really have actually experienced the dramatic difference of what adding leg mass can do. And also, when I was slowly losing leg mass, it felt like I just couldn't control my diet because I'd been accustomed to eating so many calories. And, during that time period, it was way less than what I was used to. So that is obviously a very motivating factor to hit legs. And even when you're somebody like myself who really doesn't care that much about leg size, and I personally have pretty good leg genetics, so it's not something I've had to work too hard for. And so I don't get this satisfaction of growing my legs the same way that I would like my arms. But man, if you struggle with putting on weight in terms of, you put on bad weight and you don't want to, and you're constantly monitoring your diet and you're not as lean as you want to be, leg mass is going to be one of the biggest contributors to that. And not only that, your legs carry you throughout the day. They make, if you have more leg mass and you're more powerful, you have better endurance. That's going to allow you to live your everyday life a lot easier. And so it's going to allow you to move a lot more. And everything is just going to, kind of revolve around itself and feed into itself in terms of actually getting more calorie expenditure throughout the day. So again, I don't have exact numbers on these, but if you've ever experienced a time period where you've either lost or gained a significant amount of leg mass and how that impacts your ability to eat, it is very dramatic. Again, this is not quite as true with the back, but I do think it is a significant portion as well. But another one is just when people are looking at, hey, this is what I look like at this body fat percentage. And they may be like, oh, wow, well, I look significantly better, even though I haven't put on that much muscle, or I look significantly worse, and I feel like I haven't been losing muscle. But if your leg intensity, if you're not training legs as much, that can be such a massive difference in terms of the amount of weight that you're holding at any given point. especially when we're factoring water and glycogen and everything like that, it is very, very significant. So if you're comparing apples to apples and you've been having similar training, it's kind of a different story. But if you drastically change your training where you're adding or subtracting leg volume, or you're just simply skipping legs entirely, it is absolutely a huge difference. And so I think when people are looking at other individuals online and they're like, wow, this guy's only 170 pounds and he looks so, he's shredded and he has big upper body muscles. It's like, yeah, you very well could be 170 and look significantly worse. And it's just because you're carrying way more mass on the lower body. And so I think when we're comparing, one individual to the next, there's so many different genetic things going on in terms of muscle bellies, in terms of, leanness and stuff like that, height that people kind of dismiss. But the easiest one is just simply looking at the overall leg mass and, back mass being one of them as well. And so for me, I can, speak in my experience, people almost always underestimate how much I weigh. They always think I weigh less than I actually do. I've had periods in time where I've weighed close to 280 and people just don't think I weigh that much. And I think it's because I have been genetically blessed with lower body development. This is true not just of like quads. I don't have one specific area in my lower body that just is like very genetically gifted, but I just think the entirety of my lower body is very easy for me to grow. And so the amount of mass that I carry in my lower body when I actually am training my legs intensely is very high. And so if you were to compare me to somebody at a similar height, similar weights, and they were much more upper body dominant, you would see a very different result. And so that's one way. If you want to feed your ego and you want to be heavier, if you want to eat more calories, that's obviously a huge reason to be able to eat more, because as you're moving your body through space and you're using your legs, that's going to be a very significant factor in the amount of calories that you can burn throughout the day. So that's another one, is the amount of food that I've been able to eat. I used to track my calories. I don't anymore, but when I did track my calories, I was eating a lot of food, even at a significantly lighter body weight. And that's just, again, because one thing is activity. My activity is generally higher. But two, my ability to carry my own body through space with my legs and my ability to carry that lower body mass is just significantly higher. And so pair that with being a taller individual, you're going to be able to eat a lot more food. And I think that's really something that when we look at the general population, one of my biggest piece of advice when anybody in real life is like asking me like, hey, I want to, be less fat. I want to lose weight. And it's like, well, you can either eat in a calorie deficit and then maintain that lower calorie input for the rest of your life, or you can gain some muscle mass. And the easiest area to gain muscle mass in terms of not necessarily a genetic standpoint, some people have better responding lower bodies than others, but from an effort standpoint, just the total amount of pounds that you can add to your lower body, it's a lot easier to add pounds to your lower body than it is your upper body. And if you're a female, that is even more so true. Your ability to put on a significant amount of upper body mass, especially if that's not even a look that you're going for. I mean, my goodness, I think that's probably the best piece of advice for somebody who's trying to change their physique and somebody who's part of the general population. It's like, just train your legs hard. I think that's going to be the biggest change, and it's going to allow you to be able to eat your current diet. If you can lose some fat, gain some muscle, the easiest area to gain that muscle is going to be the lower body, and you're going to be able to eat your current diet and still be significantly leaner. And as opposed to telling somebody, hey, for the rest of your life, you're going to have to eat 500 less calories a day, that's just not sustainable for a lot of people. And if they are at a level where they're already struggling with their weight and they're trying to lose weight, that's a very difficult conversation to have. And that's it's probably only going to get worse as you age, especially if you're not lifting weights. But if you do implement weight training, I think leg training is kind of the number one. So as somebody who, again, never really been big into training legs, it's something that's come pretty easy to me, and it's something that I don't get a lot of like pride out of. I think the fact that it's easier for me makes it less satisfying than, my arms, for example. I've had to work, pour blood, sweat, and tears for every quarter inch I put on my arms. So it's a very different story for me. But in terms of what that's going to do for your physique, your calorie expenditure, everything like that, lower body training, back training, that's just something that's very overlooked. And I think if you guys are not taking that seriously and you're wondering like, hey, how can I in the new year lose some weight, get leaner at the same body weight, that's going to be the answer. So just thought I'd throw that out there, something that I've been experiencing a lot lately, and hopefully that can help some of you guys if you are struggling with that and you maybe intuitively know that, but the degree in which it's true is pretty alarming. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.